Hi, this is Andrew Aversa, lead developer of Impact Soundworks and the creator of Shreddage 2 and its new free expansion, Shreddage 2X. This is a full and complete rewrite of the original Shreddage 2 library. We have a brand new engine, a brand new interface, and new recordings, although most of the audio is the same as before, just organized and played a little bit differently. Now, if you've used our Archtop sample library, you'll notice that that was the inspiration for the S2X UI. So keep that in mind. If you've used Archtop, then you're already familiar with Shreddage 2X. The instrument has 4 pages: the Perform page, Fretboard, Articulations, and Engine, which is where some of the more advanced features lie. There are also some hidden controls like MIDI CCs, which we added in for power users. You can find out more by reading the manual, which is on our website and in the video description. The manual covers all of these controls as well as the default key switches, mapping ranges, and MIDI CCs. Here on the Perform page, you can access all of the articulations and all of the effects. Much like in the original Shreddage 2, you can alter the minimum and maximum velocity for each. So by default, sustains are at 70 to 126, and mutes are at 1 to 69. Therefore, if I play lightly, you'll get mutes. And if I play with a higher velocity, I'll get sustains. If I play really hard, I'll get a pinch squeal, although the difference between this and the original Shreddage 2 is that here I have pinch squeals on a key switch, E0. I'll get to this a little bit later. The most important thing here is that you can click on any articulation to edit the mapping, as well as various settings like the hammer-on range, or the tremolo speed, or the sustain releases. Also, you can turn articulations on and off to save memory. So with sustains off, we saved about 0.06 gigabytes, or 60 megabytes. The effects section is based on the original Shreddage 2 effects area, but it is far improved and expanded. Before, we basically just had the screamer pedal, which was on and off, the bite EQ, also on and off, and the compressor. This time we've added 4 additional effects: phaser, flanger, chorus, and reverb, each of which has full tweaking controls available. The screamer now has all 5 knobs available, and the bite EQ has a depth control or amount control. All of these can be MIDI learned. Just right-click and hit Learn MIDI CC Automation. If you find an articulation mapping or an effects chain that you like, you can save it with the Save Preset button. My awesome guitar. And then you can load it later. Double tracking is back, just like in the original Shreddage 2. It's a little bit tighter, but the function is basically the same. So you load 2 instances of the instrument, and you put each one on different outputs. So here we have output 1 and output 2 from Contact. There's more information in the manual. We wrote a new section called Double Tracking 101. But basically, you want to make sure that Contact has at least 2 outputs assigned to 2 different outputs in your host. Then make sure they're on the same MIDI channel, but with different guitars selected. So let me play you what it sounds like with just one guitar. This is just the top one here. And now let me play just the second guitar. Both of these, by the way, are using the free Revolver HPSC plugin that comes with Shreddage 2 and Shreddage 2X. Anyway, now let's hear both of these together, centered. And then panned hard left and hard right. I'm doing this in my host mixer, which is FL Studio, but you would use the mixer in your host, whether that's Logic or Ableton or anything else. So one feature that's very helpful in Shreddage 2X, which is new, is the thrash note. So if this is enabled, you can hit a key on the keyboard and it repeats the last note that you played. So let me play a low B flat. Now, normally if I'm trying to sort of riff quickly, it's a little choppy. But now if I use the thrash note, you get a nice clean sound. You can connect the notes. And it just plays the last note that you played. So if I play an E, it plays an E, and so forth and so on. This can be turned off and on, and you can also change the note. You'll notice here at the bottom that there are an extensive selection of colored keys. These are all the various key switches. Again, it's explained a little bit more in the manual, but for example, we have the user-defined key switches here, string selection here, and then things like vibrato and picking mode down here. Some of the original Shreddage 2 features are back. Well, actually, all of them are back. They just look a little bit different on the interface. You can select a preferred string to use here. You can turn on tapping mode or mono mode. Tapping mode makes everything like a hammer-on or a pull-off. Mono mode is monophonic. And then you can reset your round-robin chain here. Anyway, moving on, here's the fretboard page. This shows you what notes are being played on what string and on what fret. This is useful just in visualizing what you're playing. It doesn't actually do anything. You can't click the frets, for example, but for example, if you play a chord like this, you can see how it's fingered. Now, the fretting behavior can be changed as well. I won't go into too much depth, but basically these controls tell Shreddage 2 how to interpret the MIDI notes and how to fret them. You can get much more specific if you actually choose strings to play. For example, with the key switches down here. So notice at this new fancy info bar, this says what the string preference is. Or I can turn that off. But basically, by setting the string preference, you can say exactly which string to play each note on. It's much more laborious, but for power users, you might want to do that or edit these controls. However, for most people, I would recommend just leaving these on the default. On the articulations page, we have all of Shreddage 2's articulations, the minimum and maximum velocity, and then a new feature is that you can assign these to key switches. So for example, let's use the tremolo key switch. That's a nice fast tremolo. It's not really metered, and we can change the speed of that. Actually, for this, let me turn off the effect so you can hear it a little bit better. I just have the screamer pedal on. Now you'll notice that I'm actually holding down the key switch at the bottom. And then when I let go, the key switch goes away. So I can do that with pinch squeals as well. Or staccatos. Now if I turn on key switch latch, then I just need to tap the key switch once, like this, and it'll stay like that until I hit another key. I'll turn the effects back on now. You can hear the pinch squeals in all their glory. I think those are particularly awesome. Anyway, the articulations page also lets you tweak things like the vibrato mode, smooth vibrato speed and depth, as well as settings like portamento transition time, hammer pull, etc. Now, here's what I'll talk about some of the new things that we've added. We've always had portamento transitions, so let me play those. And they still sound awesome. You can play those as much as you want. Those are really, really useful for all sorts of effects. You can also hit a note like this. And then you can trigger the portamento by just tapping a note. So I'll play a high B flat, and then I'll play a low B flat while holding the first one, but then I'll let go before it actually finishes the slide. That's a really useful effect for transitions. You can change the speed of the transitions as well as the volume. What we've added is power chord portamentos, and these are just awesome. Very, very useful. We're super excited to be giving these to people, so please use these in your compositions and definitely send us or post some demos on our Facebook page. We've also added power chord staccatos. So let me enable the key switch, and now we have on the engine page, we have quite a few options. Most of these are from the original Shreddage 2. You can turn release noises on and off. You can change their volume level, and you can change the threshold. For example, you might not want noises to trigger after 3.8 seconds. That's how I have it set by default. So, for example, if you hold a note for a long time like this, you don't hear release noise, whereas if you hold it for just a bit, you hear those little noises. Extra pick sound lets you add a little bit of lead-in time to each note. So for the purpose of demonstration, I'll just do this with one instance of Shreddage 2, so I don't have to do it for both. Let's change this to 70. Now if I increase that time, or change the variation, that can be very useful for added realism and emphasis on certain notes. I'll change that back to default. Here are some new features though. We have velocity to volume. Previously in Shreddage 2, there was no sensitivity. If you hit a note very lightly, it would just be the same volume as if you hit it very hard. So again, for this, let me just turn off the effects. Here it's at 36%. Now if I change it to 100% and play lightly, very soft. And if I play hard, it's much louder. So if you want to do something a little bit more clean with a little bit more dynamics and subtlety, that's a great new feature to have. There's also the velocity curve, which allows you to change the touch of the instrument. So right now I have it a little bit hard, which means I have to hit the keys harder to get a higher velocity. That's just the way my keyboard is. But your keyboard might be more difficult to play, in which case you would turn the velocity curve up. We also have pitch bend range. This is a lot of fun. So we have 2 semitones by default. We can change this all the way up to 12. So if you want to do crazy whammy bar stuff, that's what you want to do. There's some other features from the original, a little bit more esoteric, like split MIDI channels, which is great if you're using a MIDI guitar. It'll actually put each string of the MIDI guitar onto a separate MIDI channel if you have Shreddage 2 in Omni mode. And then we have this new random resonance feature, which is from Archtop. So this actually adds a little bit of flubbing every so often. So, you might brush a string if you're playing a real guitar and you pick a note. It won't always be 100% clean. I'll turn this up just for exaggeration so you can hear what it does. Now, obviously that's turned way up, but if you have it turned down, it's hard to hear, but it adds just a little bit of extra realism, some extra harmonics and overtones from the open strings. So it's a useful feature to have. You can tweak it to your heart's content and even MIDI learn it. In addition to all the stuff that I just showed, we've done a complete rewrite of the engine, as I mentioned. So basically everything should be a little bit tighter. The portamentos sound better, and also the stringing and fretting engine is a little bit more intelligent. It's going to not do quite so many of those weird leaps. Of course, we're always looking to improve, so if you have any suggestions, any comments, feedback, by all means, leave it in the comments below, send us an email, post on our Facebook page, or send us a tweet at iSoundworks. I'm pleased to announce that Shreddage 2X is available now as a free update to all existing Shreddage 2 users. If you don't have Shreddage 2, you can pick it up at the video description below and you'll get Shreddage 2X with it. This is the version that is going to exist going forwards, so some of the other videos on this channel are no longer 100% relevant since we've changed the UI, although the basic playing scheme of the instrument is still the same. Once again, this is Andrew Aversa with Impact Soundworks, and I hope you enjoy Shreddage 2X.